in the path of Shakti, there is this vibration. That's why, because that's what the path of Shakti, that's what Shaktopaya does. It's these vibrations. That's why there are kriyas. Everything that is somehow morphed itself into something needs to loosen up. So therefore I keep repeating myself over and over. There will be spirituality, which is more like spirituality which makes us subtly proud because we joined the right camp, we joined the right dress code, whatever that is. Mustard or saffron, robes, black, purple, white, this hairstyle, that hairstyle, V. and then it only did a little something. Yes, of course it did something. It has to do something, otherwise it would not work. And another personality is born. Another personality is born. A spiritual personality is born. Very subtle work would need to be done to dismantle that spiritual personality. That's why when people come naive and innocent, it's easy to work with them because they don't have preconceived ideas. They don't even speak the language. They can't even ask the right question. The question is like a child. Child asks questions like this. They're responsive because their field is open. But then you have this, it knows every name, it knows all the chakras, makras, and shakara, it knows all this business and how it rises, how it descends, ascends, goes left, right, and center. It knows it in Aramayak, it knows it in Sanskrit, it knows it in Chinese. That point, this point, you press that something happened, They even know where to stick their tongue, It's not to laugh at the wisdom. No, don't get me wrong. But there is also spirituality which unavoidable work. Simple, down to earth. And that's what's done, In the caves it has been done. In closed rooms, in the caves. Everyone sits around quietly, this and that, recites mantras out loud. But 2, 3, 4 would be taken to the caves. Quietly, because the real thing is happening there. Separate rooms. So, do not be afraid when you feel wobbly. Do not be afraid that structure begins to loosen up. I want to give you an amazing insight. Amazing insight. I want you to be struck by this example. Literally. It's so simple, but it's so profound that the mind cannot even grasp it. Do you remember those children toys, old-fashioned ones? Kaleidoscope. Few colored broken pieces of glass thrown in, the rest the mirrors. And you rotate it and there is a beautiful symmetrical structure all the time. Sometimes more amazing, at others more simple. But no matter what you do, it's always a structure, is it not? And as you just got used to that structure, you start moving it or shaking it, and it's like rearranging. That's what it is. It's just temporal, suddenly, oh my God, my structure is rearranging, I'm collapsing. But no way there will be no structure. No way. It cannot be without a structure. That's what is within the consciousness. It's just a different structure. Of course, it's just an example of the child's toy. It's relevant to existential perspective of each and every one of you. Whatever ideas you entertain about yourself, it's relevant to our collective state of affairs. That's what it is. Currently, we're undergoing that phase when we enjoyed that layout, and another layout comes into focal point of attention of consciousness. Okay, you want to make it more complex so that we can make maybe a good video out of it, right? So that I sound even more advanced. He's not just realized, he's so good. That rotation is actually happening by itself. There's something moving all the time. So one structure has to give way to another structure. And yet underlying there's still something is holding it all together, isn't it? A handful of broken glass, whatever that is, whatever that means, maybe some Platonic values, maybe some geometrical structures that are there before creation takes place. Everything, all the tetrahedron is there, all the marvel of that. It's there, already inherent. The rest is achieved through the way the mirrors are put together. Reflective power of awareness. It throws back any amazing configuration. So do not be afraid to lose the current structure. Do not be afraid that something undergoing transformation. Embrace it, seek transformation, find delight in that. Find delight to swim in the river and enjoy it. Stop swimming against the river, holding at something, like. Nothing is more important than what is now. As soon as you open your mouth, as soon as these ideas come, about this, what you've been trying to do, about these ideas, remind yourself, never was the time when you were you there. That's how you work with it. It's like working with that which doesn't exist from the perspective where it does and it doesn't. It does and it doesn't, you see? This is what loosen up that membrane. Loosen up that membrane of what consciousness otherwise accepts itself. And that's all we call that. In American spirituality, often very spoken as egoic consciousness, no? Cast it out by some of your celebrated teachers. That egoic consciousness, you see, it's the consciousness which essentially, that, if you remember, portion of your own kundalini that identifies with physiology, body, mind, organism, that's all. It's all there is. It's all there is to it. It's that what temporarily identifies, your own consciousness identifies with that. That's what egoic consciousness is. But then there is another perspective that though it seems as if dormant, there is dimension, always dimension, dimensionality. The para, the chit, and the kundalini is one Shakti. It's one power of your own awareness, as self-awareness. The more we sit together and share space, you will also hear me speak, and we go into this again, that there will be also, but we'll have to break here, even the illusion of self-realization, illusion of enlightenment. Because no one ever getting enlightened. It's an oxymoron. It's a flip, if you will. Everything you put, you've like this totally feverish businessman who he decided to put everything into this business. All the billions, whatever, or whatever, hundreds or billions is the same, just numbers, few more zeros, less zeros. For someone, few hundreds, it's all the world. For another, few billions, it's the same thing. Everything has been invested in that. When I get enlightened, then I would know. Does anyone get enlightened there? The one who wants to get enlightened And the one who was so eager to be there was left out. Not even invited to the party to celebrate. And I'm saying this only because if some of you may somehow got an idea that you will be taken there by me holding your hand, you are in for a surprise. You know? No one holds hands when it comes to this serious stuff. I actually like what this was spoken by Adida. I rather like. It's very crude and dramatic. The teacher is the one who grabs you and pulls you to the water, and you cannot breathe there. You know? You wanted to have a hug? Under the water. It's like, not much you can do. So therefore, you need to understand this also very clearly. Yes, there is still work to do because it's a process. So don't think that there is some door for copping out and, oh, wow, if that's the case, then why am I even trying? Yes and no. Enlightenment is an idea. It belongs to the construct in the mind. And yet it's still a process. Still a process. So we will speak about that when some of you will get enlightened, and all you will need is a confirmation of that, that's all. That's how it's traditionally been done even. Traditionally. But somehow, if anyone entertains the idea that individual gets enlightened, then you've got just as many hours to get rid of that idea. So this is how you work with that membrane of your own awareness. Sometimes it is contracted out of its own will. Out of its own will. At other times it expands out of its own will. There is no other authority of the self. This is the doctrine. There is no other doctrine greater than this doctrine. Everything else is just sidetracks and trying to get there somehow. Therefore, I remind you all that it's not that this teaching is delivered from the perspective of any isms. When I get bored speaking in tantric terms or Sufi terms, none of this will be spoken. None of this will be used. So it's a simple decision also. Simple decision. You either want to be a Buddha or you want to be a Buddhist. But don't be a nudist.